I'm Thomas Smith. I'm here from Do It Yourself Home Automation, and also in this case from Debugger on Medium, talking with Dr. Harvey Karp. He's the co-founder of Happiest Baby and author of the best-selling Happiest Baby on the Block. If you have a kid, you almost have definitely heard of his program, the 5 S's, the fourth trimester. And he's also the creator of the SNOO Bassinet, which is what we're going to chat about a little bit here today. So again, if you have a kid, you probably know about the basics already, but thanks for joining me, Dr. Karp, firstly.
Yeah, Tom, great to be with you.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. And can you just share a little bit for people who might not know about your history and the program, a little bit about your background and also about Happiest Baby and the fourth trimester and sort of the basic concepts there?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I'm a pediatrician and child developmentalist. I was the local pediatrician around the block from people, here in Santa Monica, California for decades. And I started to realize some things that hadn't really been well described in the parenting books. And one of those things was about babies, which is parents, struggle with exhaustion. Babies wake up all night long, and it can be quite difficult for families, especially if you're a working family or you don't have extended family helping you. And what we would always tell people is, well, there's nothing you can really do to help babies sleep longer. You just got to wait it out or let them cry it out. Some babies just cry, they have colic. We don't know what it is, but there's nothing you can do. And even though we would tell people that, we would also tell people that, you know what, if you have a fussy baby, your kid's not sleeping, go drive them in the car. And if you drove them around all night, they would sleep, an extra hour or two. And so it didn't quite make sense what we were telling people, that there was nothing we could do. On top of that, about 3,600 babies die every year in the United States in their sleep, called SIDS or infant sleep death. And we've made no progress in the last 20 years. We keep babies on the back and we're breastfeeding and doing all sorts of good stuff and not smoking cigarettes around them. And yet for 20 years, we've made no progress. So 3,500, that's like the number of Americans who died in 9/11. But every year over and over scattered throughout the nation. And so my wife and I felt like we could do something about that. We could make a difference. And so first, what I observed is this thing called the fourth trimester, which is not a new, I didn't invent that idea, but I did try to popularize it so people would have the proper expectations, which is that your baby is born, but they're not really ready for the world. By 4 or 5 months, they're smiling, cooing, interacting. But those first 4 months or so, they're like little fetuses just outside of you, not inside of you. And so you have to know what it's like in the womb. And the more you can imitate that, which are really the 5 S's, you're able to get babies happier. And the real aha moment there was actually a new recognition, with something called the calming reflex, which is a reflex babies are born with, which is almost an off switch for crying and an on switch for sleep, which helps parents be so much more successful. Anyway, so this is a book called The Happiest Baby on the Block. It's now been translated in over 30 languages. And we've trained thousands of educators in 20 nations teaching this. But then we were really motivated to create a product that would not just giving parents the skills to help them all day long, but how do we help parents all night long? Because the ultimate key struggle that parents have isn't even exhaustion. It's the absence of support. It's not having 4 or 5 people helping you, which is the way people always did it in the past. Bowing down to you, Tom, having 3 little kids in the house, 3 under 5, it is, and you're doing something that you were never meant to do. Nobody did what you were doing, you and your wife. I mean, everyone had the next door neighbor's older daughter over and grandma, and really a lot of help to be able to get through the day. So people need the help, people deserve the help, and that's really what the goal of my work has been.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, as we talked about a little bit before I started recording here, yeah, I have three kids. As people who follow my channel will know, I have a baby who's now 2 months old, and so I think the fact that I have the SNOO, Happiest Baby, was kind enough to send that to me to check out with my 3rd kid. So the fact that I'm here doing an interview and not fast asleep, I think is a testament to the fact that it's working well for me. But yeah, so, I had gotten a copy of Happiest Baby on the Block, as again, pretty much all new parents do at this point. For my first son, learned the techniques, used those. It's a very sort of hands-on, you're shushing, you're swaying, you're swaddling. And they work. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they work really well. So I was really interested, because it's sort of an interactive kind of hands-on process with the parent and the baby. How do you take that and create a device, an electronic device that sort of duplicates that process? What was that like?
Well, to do that, I partnered up with a professor at the MIT Media Lab, Deb Roy, and he was on sabbatical at the time, and he had used the 5S's with his 2 kids. So he said, "Oh, this sounds like an interesting project." And the goal was, as odd as this may sound, the goal was to put me in every baby's nursery in the country.
I've seen the videos where you went into people's homes and we're doing techniques with their babies.
Exactly. We made a video. I mean, there's a book, Happiest Baby on the Block, but to be honest with you, and I think it's a good book, but I really recommend the video. Most people don't have time to read books, and they don't remember what they read anyway. And these 5S's techniques are really things, it's kind of like learning how to tie your shoelaces. It's easier to learn it by watching than really to read a book about it. And so in that video, we went into homes and things like that to find as many crying babies as we could find and demonstrate how to do these techniques. But then we wanted to be able to build a device that was able to do what I would have, if I were in the bedroom at 3 a.m. with a crying baby, what would I do to that baby to help get that baby back to sleep? And that was kind of the thesis behind building this product. And the other thesis was securing babies on the back. Mm-hmm. Because babies roll over to the stomach, or they're not sleeping well, so parents bring them into bed, and that's where most of the deaths occur. Half of the deaths occur when babies roll over, and half of the deaths occur when babies are brought into the bed or a sofa or some unsafe sleep location. So as a pediatrician, one of my big goals was, how can we keep babies on the back so we keep them safer?
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, and I think that's one of the things I like about the SNOO, is that we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's keeping your baby sort of in this very safe position, and it feels safer to me than traditional swaddle, where once they reach a certain age, they're still kind of able to roll. But not to get to that quite yet. Just to start with the basics, can you just explain kind of what the SNOO is, what it does, some of the tech behind it?
Sure. So it's based on this concept of the 5S's, right? So these are 5 ways of imitating the womb to help soothe babies and get them to sleep better. And so those 5S's are swaddling with the arms down at the side, the side or stomach position, which you never use for sleep, only the back for sleep, but the back is the worst position for calming a crying baby. The third is shushing or white noise. The fourth is swinging or rhythmic motion. And the fifth is sucking. Now, it turns out that every baby is a little different. Some of them, they all really need to be swaddled. Even ones that fight the swaddling, you think that my kid doesn't like it. They really sleep better and do better if they're swaddled. But then some babies, it's swaddling and sound. Other babies, sound doesn't do much, but the motion, the bouncing, does the trick. For other babies, it's the sucking. So you kind of have to suss out what works for your baby, and then once you recognize that, it'll always work for your baby. Babies, are predictable in that way. So when we want to, how do we put this into a bed then, right? How do we put this into an infant bed where we give them something that is equivalent to driving them all night in the car? So how do we rock them? How do we give them rumbly white noise that's appropriate for them? In the womb, they're rocked every second, because when you breathe, your diaphragm is pushing against your uterus and the baby is rocked even when you're sleeping. The sound is louder than a vacuum cleaner inside the womb. It's not quiet in there. It's a quite kind of a sound. And then they're packaged up in little balls. So to lie a baby flat on their back in a quiet room in a still bed which we think is normal, is actually the most abnormal thing for a baby. We've taken away every sleep cue they have. So it's like you sleeping on a cement floor. If I took away your bed and your pillow, and you could sleep on a cement floor, you're just not going to sleep well. And babies don't sleep well when we take away everything and put them on their backs. So, so we designed this they have to stay on the back. So we designed it to kind of secure them on the back with a special swaddle. It's a 5-second swaddle. The New York Times rated it the best in America. It's very, very easy to use. And then that secures them on the back. And then the bed rocks all night long and shushes them all night long. But if they get upset, the bed responds to that with increasing motion and sound, pretty much imitating what you would do with a baby over your shoulder, who's fussing. And it will come up and down through that, depending on the need of the baby. What's so cool, I don't know if you've had this experience yet, but there's a really great sleep log that you get every day, to see how your baby did. And a lot of people wake up in the morning and they go, honey, did you know the baby woke up twice last night? Did you hear it? I didn't hear that. And that's the win. That should go, yes.
Pull mine up as we're talking here. See if I can get it going. Yeah. I mean, so one of the things I really liked early on was, the sleep log and the app is great, but also, I just noticed that the bed responds very quickly if your baby starts to fuss. So for people who haven't used a SNOO or seen one, I'll kind of give the layperson's description. There's a swaddle, you're attaching your baby into it. As Dr. Karp said, it sort of moves in the night, it makes sounds. I've noticed that if my son starts to fuss even a little bit, I hear it kind of ramp up the sound and it starts to move a little differently. Is that how it's meant to work? What is it doing there?
Yeah, exactly right. So again, it's imitating an experienced caregiver. SNOO, the interesting thing about SNOO is people think about it as a baby bed, but it's really not a baby bed. It's really a caregiver. It's like your older sister moved in and said, Tom, go to sleep. I'm going to hold and rock the baby all night. If the baby's upset, I'll rock and shush more. And if I can't calm the baby down, I'll come and get you. Because one of the misconceptions people have about SNOO is that it's like magic. You put them in, they sleep 8 hours. That's not what happens, as you know. What you will get is it'll stretch the sleep an extra half hour or an hour. So overall, you'll get an extra hour or two of sleep, but it's not like they're going to just sleep, you put a 1-month-old in and they just sleep all night long. Mm-hmm. What we have seen, and we've now done the largest studies ever done on sleeping babies, well over 40,000 babies that we've studied. We've measured babies have been in SNOO for over 220 million hours. So we have a tremendous collection of data on these babies. And by 2 to 3 months of age, they do have a solid 7-hour stretch on average. Some of them are less than that. Some of them are more than that. But on average, a 7-hour stretch. We never thought that was even possible to do. So it will respond like that to the baby. Now, parents also have choices. There are different settings. Some parents say, I don't like it when my baby jiggles too much, or my baby doesn't like it when they jiggle too much, or my baby just likes it on one level. The slow level doesn't work. I need a little bit more zhuzh, for my baby. And so you can pick different settings. And actually babies change, as you well know, from month to month. They go through growth spurts or sleep regressions. And so oftentimes people will pick different settings. Baby did great for 2 months, but now they're waking up again in the middle of the night. So we set it on a little bit faster speed all night long. When they get to be 6 months old, there's a setting that weans them off of the motion, so that usually it's a very simple transition. 2-3 nights that they don't have motion, but they're still sleeping well, then usually they're in the crib and hasta la vista to the SNOO.
Yeah, that's I think that would probably be a concern. And in fact, I've heard that from people. Oh, are they going to get dependent on this? And are they not going to be able to nap outside of it during the day? And I haven't found that to be the case at all. So I'll show I got my sleep log, and I think,
oh, cool.
I think you're right. It's a little hard to see on here, but you get this cool chart of the night. And I love that it's this bendy kind of loop of the different times. So it's a little hard to see on the video, but I'm seeing, and I think it jives with what you're saying, My son normally goes down in the SNOO at about 8, and then he's up again at about 3 in the morning, I would say,
Mhm.
which is a great chunk for people who don't have a kid yet, a great chunk of sleep for a 2-month-old, in my opinion, comparing to my other two who weren't in the SNOO. So
It is. And people sometimes, I mean, then you'll feed him at 3, of course, because he's going to get hungry. Some people will wake the baby up at 11 or 12 o'clock and do what they call a dream feed. And then oftentimes they'll sleep through till 6 or 7 sometimes. So, and again, it changes. Babies are different, and they go through different phases. That's one of the biggest misconceptions parents have about baby sleep. I mean, everybody knows now that you're not going to sleep a lot when the baby's born, right? But then you think it's just going to get better and better and better over time. And that's not usually what happens. It usually gets better and then worse and better and worse. And it literally can be like a house of cards. You know, we had a great week and now suddenly why is he waking up every 2 hours again? Because you get to thinking that you've made progress and then suddenly it's all taken away from you, which gets frustrating. People tell me that SNOO, it feels like you're driving on a 4-lane highway and 3 lanes aren't moving, but your lane is going 30 miles an hour. I mean, it's still not as fast as you want to go, but you feel so smart compared to everybody else who's just standing there in traffic.
I think that's true, yeah, and I think that gets at one of the concerns. So I've talked with a lot of different parents about the SNOO, people who have used it, people who wish they were using it, people who are thinking about using it. One of the concerns that people have is, okay, what if my baby is hungry? What if they have a diaper? Is it going to kind of like almost rock or hypnotize them through that, or am I still going to know about it? So does it kind of keep them asleep when they shouldn't be, or?
No, and that was really one of our main concerns before we brought it to the market. We tested hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of babies. Are they hungry? They're not hungry. We made them hungry. Would the bed calm them down? And so the bed will keep a baby asleep if they have very mild hunger. But once they really start getting a little bit more hungry, it just doesn't work. And that's actually one of the things that parents love. It kind of helps you to recognize the cues that your baby has. You know, oh honey, you know what, it ramped up, it's now been going for a minute, he's screaming more, this is not going to work this time, get him out, he's probably hungry, he needs a diaper change. And the bed will turn off automatically after 3 minutes, but most people don't wait 3 minutes. You can hear if it's going to be working or not really within 30 or 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's been true from my experience. And you know, another concern people have is safety. Obviously, I mean, especially if this is your first kid and you're thinking about getting a SNOO. It's might be a little bit strange to put your baby in a swaddle. Kind of feels. People have told me it looks like a baby straitjacket when you swaddle them for the first time. So it might feel a little bit strange. Putting them in this machine might feel a little strange. You talked about safety and that this is the safest infant bed ever made. I know when I heard that, when I was first looking at the SNOO, that brought me a lot of comfort. Can you just talk a little bit about, you know, what makes it safe, what has been done to test it, and, you know, what do you tell parents who are maybe a little bit leery of swaddling their kid or putting them into this sort of unknown device?
Sure. So a couple of things. One, the first thing we mentioned is about infant sleep death, which is one of the, you don't really think about that in the first month when your baby's born, but once they start wiggling around, suddenly it becomes a big issue. And what pediatricians tell parents is, you know what, if your baby can roll over onto the stomach, just leave them there. But that's actually not true. If a baby can roll over on the stomach, they still are at high risk or higher risk on the stomach. You want them on the back, at least for the first 6 months. By 6 months, you've gone past 90% of the risk of infant sleep death. And so by that alone, it's the safest baby bed ever made. And it's now recognized as a breakthrough device by the FDA. And we hope later this year, we'll be getting formal approval to be the world's first SIDS prevention bed. By our internal data, we're dramatically reducing the risk of SIDS. As you would expect, if you're just keeping them on the back, that's 50% of the risk right there. One of the things parents ask about is the motion, because at the faster speeds, it kind of is this little jiggly thing, and the heads kind of go back and forth like a bobblehead doll. no different really than when you're pregnant and you're going up and down the stairs or you're in an exercise class. We have a little video on YouTube which shows babies in a stroller when parents are calming the baby down, or in a car seat when the car is going on a gravelly road, or bouncing a baby in your arms. So we do this all the time. This is what babies require. But when you see a baby on a bed doing that, you kind of feel like that's, is
And you
that
always
right?
hear never shake your baby. That's like the
Right.
most, fundamental thing you're told.
It is, and that's such a good point, because shaken baby syndrome is a problem where the baby's head is whiplashing and they're being shaken like 2 feet back and forth, and the head is going back and forth like that. This is just a little bobblehead thing, so there's no risk of that. Having said that, you can limit the motion for parents who don't like that, or the baby doesn't need that. Not all babies need it to go to that fast speed. So most people start out on what we call motion limiter, which gives them all of the sound levels, but only goes up to a quick rocking, and not higher than that. And then depending on your baby, some babies need the motion, some babies don't. But that's been perfectly safe. And in fact, our goal is to prevent people from getting so frustrated that they do shake the baby, which happens when babies cry. So, and then when it comes to swaddling, swaddling is proven to help babies sleep more and cry less. But if they roll over swaddled, it's a risk to their lives. And so SNOO is the only way that you get the benefit of swaddling without that risk that they might roll over or get an unraveled blanket around their faces or things like that. So for all those reasons, it's by far the safest bed that's available.
Yeah, that brought me a lot of comfort. And then I think once I saw how my son responded to it, it really, made me feel like this is something that's great to continue to use. I think one other thing people mentioned was the price of the SNOO is it's a relatively big investment. But then I talked to some parents who said, well, wait a second, it's a big investment if you want to look at it as a device, but if you look at it as an alternative to a night nurse or night nanny, it's a fraction of the cost. And so actually it's saved us a lot of money. So I'm curious about, that trade-off. Do you think that's a fair comparison? And also, can you talk a little bit about, for people who maybe aren't ready to make the investment, about the sleepy swaddle and the way that you can take this 5-second swaddle and use it even if you don't have the SNOO device?
Sure. So sleepy is the same swaddle as we use in SNOO, except it doesn't have these little wings that attach to the safety clips. So babies can still roll over when they're in sleepy. So sleepy is, though, it's like you said, 5-second swaddle, super easy, super fast, none of that origami of you get all the flaps together. But when your baby starts rolling over, even in sleepy, you do have to let their arm holes, you can let their arms out so at least they can push themselves up or protect themselves. The interesting thing about price, when people, of course, you're putting together your nursery and you're buying a this and a that and the other thing, and everybody's got their own limits of the budget. And so you think, should I buy this baby bed or that baby bed? But like I said, we don't think of SNOO as a baby bed. It really is a caregiver. So if you were to hire, forget a nanny, if you were to hire a 14-year-old babysitter to hold your baby 1 hour a day, you pay $15 or $20 for that.
Right.
If you buy a brand new SNOO, it's going to cost you like, I don't know, $7 a day, $8 a day. And that's if you just use it in one kid. If you use it with your second kid, now it's $3 a day. It's a Starbucks coffee. You can actually rent it for a little bit more than $4 a day, which again is a Starbucks coffee. That's 16 cents an hour compared to $20 an hour for a 14-year-old teenager holding your baby while you cook dinner. So I think from the value point of view, a lot of people have told me, downgrade your stroller, don't buy so many baby clothes because they're going to outgrow it, and invest in something that's going to keep your baby safer. This automatically sleep trains babies. So usually by 5-6 months, you don't have to do cried out routines, gives you peace of mind. Your baby's going to be safer. A lot of people say, God, I would pay that just for insurance that my kid is going to be safe all night long. $3, $4 a day. It's like nothing to know that I can have that peace of mind. And then to add an hour on top of it. But here's the best thing. I feel like a salesman. And here's
And wait, another thing.
wait, there's more. But anyone can get a free SNOO. They can get a free SNOO from their employer. We have over 60 major corporations that provide this as a benefit now, big corporations. And so people can ask their benefits managers or their HR, to contact us. And we provide that for corporations. We rent it out for 6 months and then bring it back. I'm sure you're familiar with the Net Promoter Score concept, which is, how much do people love a certain product? And so people who get this through their employers have a Net Promoter Score of 84, which is about as high as any product ever gets.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of people who, especially being here in the Bay Area where I am, get this through their company, and the calculus there for the company is kind of, well, if it buys you an extra couple hours of sleep per night, you'll be better rested on the job, you'll have potentially better mental health. And I think that's something it's important to talk about too. It's not just sleep for the baby, but sleep for the parents.
Important. Yeah, it's so right. And it's even broader than that. I mean, exhausted parents lead to billions of dollars of healthcare costs and billions of dollars of employer costs. There's marital stress, divorce, breastfeeding failure, obesity because you're overeating and you're not exercising and you're eating impulsively when you're overtired. You mentioned mental health, which is so important. We have 2 randomized controlled trials underway right now at major universities using SNOO for the prevention of postpartum depression, which affects about probably more than 20% of new mothers, and many new fathers develop postpartum depression or anxiety. And a lot of that is related to exhaustion, crying babies where you feel like, I don't know what to do, feeling like there's no one there to help you. And so we anticipate that this is going to be, we'll be getting the results pretty soon of these studies, and we'll be able to, I think, prevent a large number of parents from getting postpartum depression. We've already used it in trials for women who are depressed. And we've seen that we've been able to help women who are suicidal, who are only getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night. They can't turn off their brains. And within a few nights, they're much better because they have SNOO. Number one, peace of mind that the baby's going to be safe at night. And number two, feeling like they have a helper so that they can get a little bit more sleep. Car accidents, emergency room visits. I mean, and then for employers, productivity, retention. A lot of people, a third of all women leave the workplace in the first year after a baby is born because they just can't balance all of that. So there's lots of benefits for employers. Now we're in hospitals. Over 100 hospitals are using SNOO for premature babies, for new moms, to give them a helper in the room with them, to reduce liability and healthcare costs. So it's actually been pretty cool, to see how this is expanded across the US and now actually around the world.
Yeah, what a lot of parents had told me was there's 2 pieces. There's the fact that the baby sleeps better, and then obviously you sleep better, but also that they slept better knowing that the baby was safe in the SNOO. So there's the physical, the baby wakes up and wakes you up, but there's also that fear that especially a lot of new parents have of, am I doing this right? Is the baby still breathing? All of these things. And so
Sure.
They slept better knowing that the baby was safe.
Such a big responsibility,
yeah.
Right? So huge. Well, we're really proud. I mean, we won the Innovation of the Year award from the National Sleep Foundation. We've really won more major awards than any baby product in history. And we're even, super proud of the fact it's in the Smithsonian Institution. I mean, this baby product somewhere next to the Wright Brothers airplane or something is this little baby bed. It's that kind of an iconic advance for parenting and inform and function, because it's a beautiful bed. Also, people sometimes say, can we leave it in the living room? It looks so good. We want to show it off.
It looks kind of like an Ames chair and an iPad combined together is how I think about it.
That's perfect. That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, at San Francisco MoMA, it's on exhibit there right next to the iPod. And so it is like an Apple type of a product.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like a design piece, probably one of the better design things in the nursery there. Anything that I haven't covered here? Is there any plans for a SNOO 2.0 or any future plans that you're working on now?
We're working on lots and lots of interesting things, tech things, but also non-tech things for families. And actually, it's one of the things I wanted to mention to you. You've got the older kids, and you've heard of Happiest Baby on the block and use the 5S's. And the question is, do you know about Happiest Toddler on the block? And have you had an opportunity to kind of try out those ideas?
I haven't yet, but I've heard of it, and I'd love to learn more.
But and this is for me what's really I'm passionate about. When you're having a baby, when people are having a baby, they want to be the best mom and dad that ever had a baby. And people buy 5, 6, 7 baby books, how do you puree vegetables? How do you do this and that? And sometimes they read the books, and sometimes they even remember what they read, but they've got them on the shelf, right? They know that,
the library, yeah.
right. And then they never buy another book the rest of their kid's life, as if they're just winging it. And while we're spending all this time talking about the first 6 months of life, which are important, and they have, real important ramifications on families and on the health of children and parents, between 7 months of age and 6 years of age, you've built a person. The first 6 months of life, they're going to go by one way or another. You'll do well or not do well, but it's going to be over. But between 6 or 7 months and starting school, you've built a person. You've built their sense of self-worth, their emotional resilience, their confidence, their communication abilities, their ability to delay gratification. And so I'm excited talking more and more about toddlers. And there's a lot of free information on our website about toddlers. But there is a book, Happiest Toddler on the Block, and a video by the same name, to teach parents some very simple and very counterintuitive techniques that in just days can help your child be more patient, more cooperative, reduce temper tantrums and outbursts, and help them on the path to being really good members of the family. And so that's a cool thing. I'm happy to talk to you more about that off camera, but something that I'm excited about doing more and more, now that we've launched the baby bed so successfully, to be able to help parents as they're raising older kids.
That's wonderful to hear. Well, thank you so much for joining us here. This has been so great to hear about, everything about the SNOO and about your work and plans for the future. So thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for trying it out, trusting your little baby in it.
Tom here. If you enjoyed the interview today, stay tuned for more DIYHA interviews with prominent thinkers and leaders, creators, inventors in the tech space. Also, check out debugger.medium.com for many of my articles and DIY-HA.com for detailed product reviews. If you enjoyed this, please follow our channel to hear the most up-to-date interviews. And if there's someone you'd love to hear me talk to, feel free to leave that person's name in the comments, and I'll try to reach out. Thank you.